Hi everyone, you're very welcome to my live today. And today I want to talk a bit about the blood sugar roller coaster. But before I kind of get into that, that's the answer to the questions. It's really looking at, have you ever wondered why you sometimes feel, kind of like say shaky or jittery, why you might be tired in the afternoons or after a meal, why you might have these real unexplained dips in energy. Sometimes why you feel hungry whenever you know you shouldn't feel hungry. And actually more than hungry, whenever you can feel really, really hangry. And maybe why you can't just stop at eating one or two biscuits, why it's half a packet or a packet of biscuits. Where you might feel really hyper 1 minute, all go 1 minute and crash the next, okay? Cravings maybe that are driving you mad, or you've eaten one bar of chocolate and that's not enough. You feel like as if you could really eat another one, same with a couple of slices of toast or something like that. So those are all symptoms, those are all common feelings, complaints that clients will often approach me with. And one of the things that I would say probably 90% of the time be looking at and try to help clients address is the fact that they are more than likely on a blood sugar roller coaster. So what's all that about? Really what I'm describing there is whenever the amount of sugar in your blood goes up and down like a yo-yo or like a roller coaster. That's why we call it the blood sugar roller coaster. Literally 1 minute there is too much sugar in our blood, and then very shortly afterwards there's not enough. So it goes up and then it drops really, really quickly. And that is directly linked to what we've just eaten. Okay, so that's kind of the clue. And the thing about it is our body is it's a wonderful thing, right? It can deal with these highs and lows, but it doesn't like extremes. It likes balance at all times. It's the same with temperature control or your blood pressure, things like that. It really likes just this nice kind of level balance, and whenever it's faced with extremes, especially if it's faced with the same extremes continually, then it reacts as if it's in a crisis. And that reaction gives you all of those symptoms that we talked about earlier: the tiredness, the jitteriness, the hangry, the cravings, maybe the mood swings and things like that. Because here's the thing, like whilst most of us can enjoy roller coasters in an amusement park or something, the gigantic ups and downs, the highs and the lows, mostly that's only lasting for 2 or 3 minutes. But if you can imagine riding that roller coaster all day long, not fun, okay? And the riding the blood sugar roller coaster is exactly the same for our body and for our systems that has to help manage that. It really kind of depletes us of energy, of our good moods, and it's not a way to live, the ups and downs all the time. And if you're listening on here and watching, it could be something that you're familiar with, and maybe you're riding that roller coaster, that blood sugar roller coaster today. Mood swings, intense sugar cravings can come along with it. Difficulty focusing is another one, and the low energy levels, right? At varying degrees, depending on how many highs and lows, and depending on the extreme of the highs. Maybe it's just a wee dip up and down. So it's a big roller coaster or a wee small roller coaster. So let's dive in just a wee bit more. The thing is, whenever we're on an eating regime, which is pretty typical of the Western diet, it's like a high intake of carbohydrates, not that many healthy fats, because historically there's been a lot of low fat diets running around, and sporadic protein. We don't prioritize protein unless you're working with someone, really, you're not really prioritizing protein in your diet, then you're on that roller coaster. On the other hand, hands up who wants to feel basically feel great, have more consistent energy levels, ability to focus and maintain a stable mood, with no crazy cravings, basically, eating something because you really want to, not just because you have this intense craving that you don't understand. And equally, it's good to have a good handle on weight maintenance and weight loss. And all of those, excuse me, good feelings come down to a blood sugar regulation. You being better able to regulate how much sugar is in your bloodstream. So what fuel drives this roller coaster, this up and down, okay? And it is sugar or carbohydrates. And I'm not coming on here to kind of kill carbohydrates and to say carbohydrates are the devil, so hopefully that will become clear whenever I'm talking. But carbohydrates are one of the three macronutrients. You've got fat and protein are the other two. And all carbohydrates, as we eat them, are metabolized in our body as sugar once they reach the bloodstream. They're all metabolized as sugar, which is why carbohydrates will cause a spike or a dip in a spike and then a dip in our blood sugar levels. That the other two macronutrients, to varying degrees, really don't. Your protein and fats don't spike your blood sugars that much. And the problem with eating any carbohydrate alone is that because all carbohydrates turn to sugar, once they reach the bloodstream, they're spiking your blood sugar levels, which then tend to crash immediately afterwards. And it's that crash, that dip, that gives the whole high and low. And whenever we're in that dip, that's whenever we get the intense craving, that's whenever we get the hangry, that's whenever we get, say, maybe anxiety or brain fog can come in there. And I suppose it depends on the speed of the spike, the depth then of the dip. What happens through all of that is that it activates a whole host of hormonal signaling in our body, like insulin, which you'll have heard of, cortisol and adrenaline, and there's a hormone glucagon, which, that works all of these hormones. It's like a real hormonal storm. Your body is in complete overdrive, driven by what you've just eaten. So, is there a way to stop that? Yes. Okay. And it's not that you have to stop eating carbs, right? It's literally just that you want to be looking at the type of carbohydrates that you're eating, how you're eating them, and when you're eating them. Those are the things that make the difference, okay? To make matters worse, or rather just to bring it into the, I suppose just into the whole fray of what we're talking about, is that as we age, we run the risk of impaired carbohydrate tolerance, which is linked to our decreasing levels of estrogen. So I just thought I'd throw that in there because most of my clients are women who are either approaching menopause, through menopause, or out the other end. So it is just something to be aware of, that there is like an impaired or decreased carbohydrate tolerance, which basically means that we just can't hack just as many of them as we used to have. So I kind of want to give you a couple of tips to try to stabilize your blood sugar levels, to keep you off that blood sugar roller coaster as much as possible. The first one is really just to try to eat a combination of the three macronutrients, right? The protein, the fat, and carbohydrates, to keep your blood sugar levels stable. The likes of the protein and the fat will kind of slow everything down. It won't be just as high, okay? Try not to eat carbohydrates alone. If you're in a pinch and you can't have all three of the macronutrients at a meal, opt for 2 out of 3. Try to find a protein or a fat source to go with your carbohydrates. So if you're having maybe say like wholemeal toast or something like that, you're going to have egg with it, which will give you fat and protein, or peanut butter, say, for example, which would give you fat or protein. You know, but you might just get avocado, which is giving you fat, a nice healthy fat. That will help to slow down, and you won't get that big spike. You compare that to something like a slice of wholemeal toast and jam. You know, that's all carbohydrate stuff, okay, and you're definitely going to get that bit of spike there. White bread and jam, even spikier, okay. So those are the sort of small changes that will make some small differences there for you. I suppose really the main tip is to consume less of the refined carbohydrates, the processed foods, less sugar, because it is just pretty much like, you know, putting a drip in your arm and putting the sugar in straight into the bloodstream, right? It's literally that spike. And it, you know, it might seem like a no-brainer, but it is worth saying that these types of carbohydrates, the refined sugars, the chocolate, the sweets, the breads, things like that, will spike your blood sugars most. And anything that spikes your blood sugars most sets you off on that blood sugar roller coaster. And the thing about it is, it's not just the going up, it's whenever you go down. That's what really drives the intense craving for you to eat more of the same thing. So if you are going to choose carbohydrates, you know, go for ones that will give you the biggest bang for your buck, so to speak. Go for like a really good, a high fiber, you know, carbohydrate, like your berries, all your vegetables, things like that. They are all carbohydrates, but they're good complex carbohydrates. They've got that complicated nature that won't spike your blood sugar just quite as much, especially if you're having them with a wee bit of protein and fat. And last but not least, of course, you know, I would say get some support, because if you're making changes to your diet and your lifestyle, you know, especially if they're big enough changes for you, and especially whenever sugar is involved and you're already feeling that you're in the throes of almost like a sugar addiction type thing, then change is not always easy, but it can be made easier. And that's a big part of my help with clients, either working on a one-to-one, or say through the sugar-free challenges that I do, you know, once or twice a year. So the next sugar-free challenge that's coming up is a 14-day sugar-free challenge starting on the 7th of June. Now, although it's not starting until the 7th of June, I have actually opened the Facebook group early and already loaded up the challenge, the sugar-free challenge success manual. We've already got some people registered from last week. Just to give a wee bit of time for preparation, and you know, I find that really helps. And next week I'll be coming on to the group, and you know, doing some lives and Q&As and just giving a bit more of a follow on from this sort of thing, giving people plenty of tips about how to prepare for that sugar-free challenge. There's also the option of booking Power Hour with me. Because sometimes really just working out, you know, the timings of what you're eating and when you're eating, and you know, a few wee, you know, jiggles around can help as well. So those are a few options for you to get some support. But I'd love to see you signing up for the sugar-free challenge. I've done it twice now, once for a month and once for 10 days with a group last November. And I have a link in the caption there to my blog that I wrote about the sugar-free challenge, with some testimonials that you can read on there. And I have to say, I felt absolutely amazing, and you know, so did everybody that was on it. That was kind of like the big feedback. I feel amazing. I mean, who doesn't want to say I feel amazing? So I'm actually really looking forward to doing it again on the 7th of June. So hope some of you will come on board and join me. See you then. And if you have any questions about it at all, either pop them in the comments or send me a message. Love to hear from you. Okay, have a good day. Bye.